Ray, what can you tell us about the working conditions in this area around the 1830s? What was going on?
Well, you've got to start off in explaining where we were with regards to the world. And we were the big boys at that time. The iron railways in America and the United States, they've seen the Western films with the trains chugging across. They were made in Tredegar or Ebbw Vale. Same with Russia, opening up there. The cannons in the war films, you see the Napoleonic Wars or the American War of Independence or the big old pirate ships, all the guns on there, made in Tredegar, Ebbw Vale. This was how Wales made on the Borough of Blaenau Gwent made its impact on the world. We were world leaders. The coal was exported. If you sail to Asia, you see a coal depot, Tredegar Iron and Coal Company. If you go to South America, Ebbw Vale Steel Iron and Coal Company was there. We were everywhere. We dominated the world industrially. The Bristol Channel was the busiest waterway in the world at that time. Cardiff, the busiest port, all bringing the coal down from Blaenau Gwent and the other valleys. In Cardiff, the first cheque for £1 million ever made in the world was made there for coal from Blaenau Gwent. This is the state of the situation.
Right, with all this money being made then, the working population of Blaenau Gwent must have been really well off.
Yes, they were very well off. They had to work 15, 16 hours a day for virtually nothing. They'd come home, they'd have to live in a 2-bedroom hovel, no sanitation, no toilets, they'd have to dig an hole, they'd have to get their water from the local stream, and the owners of the property, which were normally the ironmasters, forced them to take in lodgers. So you could have as much as 6 people sleeping in one room in a 2-bedroom hovel, and they sleep in shifts. The ironworks were expanding, the coal industry was expanding, people were flocking in here, and rather than go to the expense of building more houses, it was cheaper for the owners to cram more people into a single house. It was more cost effective in the modern language then.
But the money now that the workers was making, they'd be saving all that up.
No, the workers didn't make any money, and this is one of the big grievances with the riots and the charges. There was a thing called the truck shop. Now, in those days, the owners would pay your wages every 6 to 8 weeks. Well, even now, you try and live more than a week or two without money. So they say, all right, we'll give you a loan. You go to our shop now and we'll give you some food or your candles for work. But they charge you 30% more than other shops would further down the valley.
But couldn't they take their money to another shop?
No, because the owners owned the land, they owned Tredegar. They owned Ebbw Vale, and they wouldn't allow other shops in there. Tredegar relented later on, they were about the best. But other parts, Nantico and Blaenau, it was atrocious how they treated their workers, even up to the 1870s. So the man was continuously in debt. It was untenable. You couldn't go and complain to your MP, because the MPs were the owners. The magistrates were the owners. You couldn't vote for your own party or your own elected representative.
But surely if you had a problem with your employer, you go and see a union representative.
Wasn't allowed in the early sections. They wasn't allowed. They wouldn't allow combinations of workers. And anyhow, even when they allowed that after the Combination Act, the ironmasters were so powerful that they still banned unions. And you'd appeal against it, you'd have to go to court. And you go to court and sit in on the bench, is the bloke I'm complaining about.
What about the churches and the benefit clubs? Surely there was something in the community.
The benefit funds come in, yes, but they were a fallback that you could only pay into when you were working. And many of the benefit funds and many of the early unions simply went bankrupt. Bread was, of course, the main staple diet, and they put the price of bread up. When they weren't manufacturing stuff, they'd have to make a profit elsewhere, so they'd put the price of bread up, or perhaps the rents. And they'd really squeeze people, and that's why people rioted. The first riot in the area was attacking a journey full of bread coming into the area from Brecon. People were absolutely starving. They had no choice. They couldn't do nothing else but take the law into their own hands. And that's where this desperate state came in. And that's why the Valley's got this reputation of being the Wild West, which it was. A fella from Manchester come down, a lawyer with the Association of Miners up there, and he brought a 12-year-old girl into it. And this 12-year-old girl had been working for 4 years, and she'd never seen real money. She was always in debt. And in front of the newspapers, she spoke in court, and that caught the public's attention. And there was outrage throughout Great Britain, and the magistrate had to acquit them. He sent them to 14 days jail, which they'd already served. He acquitted, and quietly the Truck Act disappeared. But it was only public opinion. Whether you liked it or not, we're talking about an era now where the Scots cattle were prominent.
So what's Scotland from Scotland? Were they cattle?
We don't know. No, they weren't from Scotland. They were local miners, and
so why are they coming with the name Scotch cattle?
Some believe it's a bit of an irony, because the soldiers down here at that time were the Scots Greys.
Yeah.
They think they were taking the mickey out of the army. Yeah. But we just don't know. It's lost in the mist at times. They were a secret organisation. They had to be, because they were fighting cavalry, militia, yeomanry, and they organised themselves into herds of about 300, and they were clever enough not to be active in their own area. Few lived in Tredegar, and you had a problem in Tredegar, the Evervale boys would come over and have a talk.
So how was that organised?
We don't know again. It's they claim there wasn't a central organisation, but there must have been. The bull, the head of each clan, if you like, must have contacted another. But they had to keep it secret, didn't they?
Was there any literature that they would use?
Oh, yeah, yes. I think the English teacher wouldn't be very pleased with the literature, because the spelling was atrocious. But we got to remember they were Welsh. Most of them in the beginning, they spoke in Welsh, only quietly had come to English as the influx of English people come in, and they were illiterate, because when could they go to school if they started work at 4 years of age? You only had the Sunday school, and that's all he wanted. So they did have warnings. Heed ye now, John Davy, unless you stay out of work, we will visit your house, and etc., etc.
And there was the London Workingmen's Association then. So what sort of influence did that have on the valleys?
It was fragmented. Because of the opposition and the threat of dismissal by the owners, if you join trade unions or whatever, before, say, the 1870s, it was fragmented because he was afraid to be too public. Or you would get dismissed, so you had to cover it in benefit societies. You know, it's pay a penny a week, and if you're injured, you'll get benefits. So it was influential in certain areas, but not all areas. And you had a tumultuous time because it wasn't a settled community. There was people coming in all the time, and people going all the time. So you had Irish fighting English, fighting Welsh, and God knows what. So you weren't united in the fact to get an organisation going to protect yourselves. It was only united when it was desperate. It's difficult times, fascinating times, isn't it? And I think children should look at these times and investigate it and understand how they're living now, how comfortable they are now, what sacrifices are made by people to get them here. And it's not boring, it's not dry, it's exciting, it's adventurous stuff. Anything you see on Pirates of the Caribbean or anything like that, it happened round here in a different context, and it's worth looking
How are the Chartists remembered now then?
Blaenau Gwent must remember him with pride. They must remember what they've done for us who are alive now, for the working class movement, for people in general. The original working class heroes. Blaina Grant set the standards for advancement of people throughout the country, and Blaina Grant should be proud of it.